Hello, welcome to the Pesto Comics newsletter for July 31st, 2024. Today's entry, Con Journal, California Dreamin. My first time at San Diego Comic-Con, but is it my last? Making the pilgrimage. San Diego Comic-Con is a must-do for any comics fan. At least once. Even more so for a creator. It's just where everyone is. If you want to feel the pulse of comics, it's in San Diego. That said, do you need to go every year? We'll get to the bottom of that question in this newsletter. But first, let me share what I picked up. One of the biggest things San Diego is known for is the exclusives. It's a hell of a marketing gimmick, and one I fell for repeatedly. The foil variant Absolute Batman Ash Can was the only true must-get I had on my list this weekend. I haven't felt this much excitement for comics, or DC Comics, since the New 52. I know what I could have got for my New 52 Batman #1 if it didn't get damaged in my uneven long box, but that's not why I picked it up. Same goes for this Absolute Batman Ash Can. I wanted a memento of the occasion that would be locked in this point in time. An ash can for a comic that's coming out months later accomplishes just that. I also picked up a few more exclusives from DC and IDW, but I didn't go too out of control. Panels, panels, panels. I wrote a Substack note last week about going to panels, and the reason for me to go to cons, first as a fan and now as a creator, is for these panels. These are the events that stick with me well beyond the weekend. The floor is fun, but where you really learn about the industry is in these events. And here are the ones I went to with my 2 days at the con. On Thursday, Exploring the Moon, the Artemis Generation. This was not a panel I planned to attend. It was not on my list. I thought I was showing up for the Minor Threats panel, and it sure was packed like it would be. Then, a picture of the moon goes up, and people started cheering. I didn't get it. It honestly took me until folks wearing NASA gear came out for me to realize the mistake I've made. A very fortunate mistake. Not only did I learn quite a bit, which is always fun, but it helped me rework an idea for a series that I've been really struggling with, and potentially spawned a whole new one. It's one of those lucky mistakes that might lead to something huge down the line. The takeaway from this panel. We've been to the moon, yes, but not the cool, or dangerous, parts. Minor Threats. A round table with Patton Oswalt and friends. The benefit of already sitting through that NASA panel is that most of these folks were only there to hear about Artemis and the moon. A ragtag group of C-list villains did not cross over, so I was able to get a better seat. I used that to learn about how the Minor Threats universe is expanding, and I got inspired by the whole premise. The point Jordan Blum and Patton Oswalt tried to get across was not to save anything. Write like this is the only book that'll ever exist. Change things permanently. That's how I've been approaching my work with these one-shots, and with how the next two series, From Parts Unknown and Naked Kaiju Woman, have been written. It was a good reminder to always write that way. Takeaway? Don't plan for what happens next. Just plan to do the best with what's in front of you. DC's Absolute Power Panel. For me, this was the main event. I got to move a few seats closer and was pretty much front and center for this panel. I mentioned earlier that I'm very excited by this all-in initiative DC has going on, so being at San Diego Comic-Con for the kickoff is a dream come true. The fact that they didn't save this for Friday or Saturday when I'd be on the outside looking in, like I was for everything Marvel, Image, Mad Cave, etc., was a blessing in itself. The reveals were huge, like the launch of Justice League Unlimited or Absolute Flash, and the energy in the room was palpable. I do understand that Bleeding Cool spoiled a lot of this, but I avoided some of it so that there would be some surprises, and clearly I wasn't alone. Everyone who left the room got their hands on an exclusive pin and an ash can. This truly lived up to the hype for me. Takeaway? Comics can be really exciting when they want to be. Kickstarting comics in 2024 and beyond. I truly believe that you can always learn something by hearing the same information told to you in a different way. This was the Kickstarting comics panel for me. There was nothing revelatory. It was all more or less what I expected. I asked a question, half knowing what the answer would be, regarding getting followers on Kickstarter. Do it. But it's always good to hear things again and get them ingrained. Takeaway, you can always learn more from relearning what you think you know. Creating comics. Ask the Pros AMA. Not dissimilar from the previous panel, a lot of what was discussed here wasn't terribly new. The panelists were diverse enough in their experiences or roles that the answers were at least varied and interesting. And any opportunity I can take to learn from Pat Shand, I'm more than happy to take. Takeaway, there's no one path. Everyone has their own breaking in story. And now, on Sunday, what are comic book editors looking for? This was a panel of hard truths. That sounds like a negative, but it's not. I've heard a lot of what was said here from other editors before, and felt it myself putting together Big Smoke Pulp. Hearing them again with a whole new set of editors just reminded me that I'm on the right path. Takeaway, have something to show people, and schmoozing is overrated. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, from the first issue to the last Ronin. Unlike most of the other panels I had gone to, this one wasn't about craft or selling future products. This panel was pure celebration. The ovation when Kevin Eastman walked in, or when Ernie Reyes Jr. said his upcoming projects were just being happy and healthy, were true high points. I've been a Turtles fan since before I could remember, so getting to reminisce with some of the people who created those memories was something truly special. Takeaway, the Turtles kick multi-generational ass. The Writer's Block, Career Paths in Comics. This was almost a repeat of the panel at the beginning of the day, with David Avalone and Ryland Grant repeating a lot of the anecdotes they had from that previous panel. Still, it's always good to hear from folks who are just one or two steps ahead of you, like Trevor Fernandez-Lankwitz, to see the path forward. Takeaway, what defines creators as pro has changed for the better. It wasn't just panels or things at the event itself. Here's some trouble I got into outside of the con. Global Comics Mixer. Depending on who you talk to in my life, you get a very different picture of me. Some think I'm a wallflower, others think I could talk to anyone. It really depends on the situation. This one was a weird one for me. I was ready to talk to anyone, but it wasn't reciprocated. Most folks stuck to themselves, at least until Mick Byers took a seat at the table I was at. We didn't exchange names for a good 45 minutes, instead realizing that we did some cross-promotion on each other's Kickstarters campaigns. We hit it off, talking 90s Superman Triangle comics, and how we don't entirely understand the vertical scroll the same way the kids do. Comic Book Defense League, San Diego Comic-Con welcome party. This was not on my agenda, but Mick was kind enough to drag me along with him and the rest of the White Ash crew. There were a lot more recognizable faces here, though I didn't know any directly myself, and some really cool items to bid on in the silent auction. I put my name down for a couple CGC books, but never got the call. Too rich for my blood, I guess. It was for a good cause, so congrats to whoever took home those books. Black Jacket Club Founders Breakfast. This event was the one that convinced me to finally check out San Diego Comic-Con for myself. It was a brief breakfast. Still, we got to spend some time with other motivated creators, along with the absolute Batman duo of Scott Snyder and Nick Dragata. I also got to meet Oscar Osorio in the flesh after following his career path online. He's got the same energy in person as he does in his socials. On the floor, SDCC is really weird in how they spread out all the indie creators. Artist Alley, Small Press, and the IP Pavilion are all on opposite ends of the floor. I made a point to visit Jim Zub after missing out on seeing him at Fan Expo last year. I've read most of what he had on offer, so I grabbed a sweet signed copy of Conan. His website was pivotal in getting me started, and I recommend that you read every entry. So much good content. Off-site and non-comic activity. I only had a badge for Thursday and Sunday, so I found some other things to do with my time on Friday and Saturday, including returning to LA. Golden Apple Comics. This is a shop I always heard about, so it was a must-do. It didn't disappoint. Lots of great bundle deals, plus a Mark Waid signed, albeit smudged, copy of Absolute Power #1. LAFC. There was also some non-comic activity on my agenda. It was frankly a good break from it all. BMO Stadium was amazing. The building, the tailgating, the atmosphere. It made me see the gap that BMO Field in Toronto now has to bridge. Though, it does have LA beat on beer prices. My goodness, California is expensive. Deadpool and Wolverine. Back in San Diego, the free time allowed me to catch Deadpool and Wolverine. Before I would get spoiled walking the floors of SDCC and overhearing people's conversations, and it definitely would have. This movie is pure fan service, which is fine, because it was never a secret. You do not start your MCU journey here. If you do, you won't find too much in it for you. As someone who can find Deadpool annoying, even knowing that it's his shtick to be so, I really enjoyed this one. Hugh Jackman is as good as ever as Wolverine, and this is easily the most comics accurate version. I'm very glad we got to see that with him. Avoid spoilers if you can. The cameos and surprises are most of the fun. The bookstores of San Diego. In Toronto, we have a bookstore called BMV. It's one of my favorite places. I was on the hunt for a similar place in San Diego. Was I successful? Kind of. Aside from the cool indie shops like Verbatim Books, I found a place called Book Off and picked up way too many books. I enjoyed it so much that I hit up another one on my way back to LA to fly home. Well, are you going back to SDCC? In short, no. Not right away, at least. As much as I enjoyed it, I don't think I'll go back just as a fan. I love going to the panels and getting to meet folks, but this event gave me a weird feeling. I was on the outside looking in, even as I met a few folks who backed campaigns or subscribed to this newsletter. The event itself felt eerily similar to Fan Expo Canada. It's not unlike when I'm abroad and I find a restaurant that folks are raving about, just to discover that we have something similar or better at home. I don't need to pay the exorbitant hotel fees or sit on a 5-hour flight when a 14-minute train ride will provide the same experience. If there's business to tend to, a weekend in San Diego wouldn't be out of the question. It's clear that SDCC is the center of the comics world, and I wouldn't swear it off. I just don't think I need to return as a fan. Not unless I have a reason beyond checking it out. Next year, I'll likely shoot for New York Comic Con instead. I can drive there from Toronto or take a very cheap flight, and I know New York City well enough not to get hosed on hotels, food, or events. Between now and then, though, there's a few events north of the border that I'll be attending or tabling at. Plus, I've got one more trip into unknown territory this year, Thought Bubble. I'll be exhibiting there, handing out freebies and driving people to the various Pesto Comics projects available online. I hope to see you there, or at any of the other shows I'll be at. And before we go, I've got some quick updates for you. Crazy Latte Thing Called Love. Surveys have been sent. We're at about 75% complete, and I'll start locking orders very soon. When that happens, backers will get access to download digital copies. Print copies are due to hit my door this Friday. I'll be packing through the weekend to get these out to backers ASAP. From Parts Unknown, with Crazy Latte Thing Called Love nearly ready for fulfillment, the project page for the next Kickstarter, from Parts Unknown Issue 1, will be submitted for approval. Once that happens, I'll start sharing out the pre-launch page to make sure we launch big. Big Smoke Pulp. With San Diego Comic-Con done and dusted, I have time to get back to formatting this book. I'll be sending contracts out to the contributing authors soon, along with their stories formatted for the book. This project will launch soon after from Parts Unknown, so expect to hear more about this one in the fall. And VonCon. On August 10th, you can find me tabling at VonCon. It's a very low cost for entry, $5 Canadian. So, if you're in the area, stop by, grab some of the latest from Pesto Comics, or just say hi. Let's talk about what's coming up next. Wednesday, August 7th, juggling multiple projects, arguably not just for clowns. August 14th, Comics in the Ballroom, the weekend at Von Comic Con, and August 21st, Fun with Fulfillment, Crazy Latte Thing Called Love, the second part of the Crazy Latte Thing Called Love Postmortem. And with that, I want to thank you for listening. Again, we're going to do this weekly, so I'll talk to you next Wednesday. But if you do have anything to say, by all means, please go to the website, leave a comment, let me know what's on your mind, and I'll be happy to reply. So, as always, I really appreciate it. Talk to you soon.